Joining us now is Jean Shafiroff, a New York City philanthropist and author of several publications on charitable giving. Jean, I appreciate you being on tonight because obviously we're in a very hard situation as a country. I mean, we see people either on television or people they know actually in person going through very hard economic ideas right now, even public health ideas right now. When it comes to charitable giving, how important is that during a time like this?
It is extremely important. Right now, we have 23 million Americans out of work, and that number is climbing. In the New York area, we have about 1.2 million out of work. So donating to food pantries and then COVID-19 heroes funds at the various different hospitals is very, very important. We have a situation right now where people don't have food on the table. And what does that mean? When you don't have a paycheck, what happens? You can't pay your rent. You have no food for your family. You can't pay your bills. You're in very big trouble. So it is imperative that people, you can give a check for $5, $10. If you're very wealthy, I believe you have an absolute obligation to open up your hearts, open up your checkbooks, open up your wallets, and make a big donation.
And what makes this issue even more complicated is that there's a war, as I was saying, on several fronts. We have an economic issue going on right now due to shelter-at-home orders across the country, but that's being done in order to address the public health crisis as well, which is another front of this war that we're fighting. So really, there's multiple avenues that people are facing obstacles from. So acknowledging that point, what is the best way to help out right now? Is it volunteering, actually doing physical labor yourself, giving money to different programs, or we also heard blood drives are something that a lot of people are asking for, plasma? What is the best way that people can give at the time being?
Well, right now, most of the food pantries are in desperate need of financial donations. And some people are hoping that they can make food in their kitchen, but most of the food pantries can't take that. They need monetary donations. Also, volunteerism is on the decline at these food pantries, so volunteers are desperately needed. Many of the volunteers at the food pantries were in their 60s and 70s, and many of them have decided to stay home because they're at very high risk for getting COVID-19 and getting very sick from it. Also, donating blood plasma is a good thing also. So all three work, but I'm telling you right now, the food banks don't have enough food. We need the monetary donations. Feeding America is just one example of a national food bank that desperately needs money. They're estimating that in the next 6 months, they're going to have a $1.4 billion shortfall in finances. So they have a website. All you have to do is go online, put in Feeding America, and the information comes up. You can go right to their website. In the New York area, the very good food pantries that I recommend are Food Bank for New York City. It's very, very large, feeds over 1 million people every year. Then there's City Meals. There's God's Love We Deliver, City Harvest, many, many different groups, but these are all excellent groups.
And when it comes to donating money to, or even food, whatever it may be, I understand people are a little bit hesitant, just based on the fact that they don't like giving their money to someone that they don't necessarily know where it's going. So if you were to give advice to people as to where to find a credible charity that they can find in their area, what type of advice would you give them so they guarantee that their money is going to someone who will do good for that cause that they're looking to do, compared to, unfortunately, there are people who are issuing scams at this time. I mean, I can't even begin to start speaking my feelings about those people, but it has been reported that there are people taking advantage of this tragedy. So in order to get money into the right hands, what is some advice you give to people looking to donate?
Well, there are a few websites, GuideStar, Charity Navigator, and the Better Business Bureau, and they rate charities. Now, the smaller charities may not be rated, so you can Google that charity, look up, see what kind of articles, newspaper articles have been written about them. And if you can't find a website and you can't find anything on them, never an article on them, ask around. But that's already a little suspicious because most charities look to get a good publicity, because if a newspaper or a TV show says something great about them, that really helps their efforts.
I think that's good advice right there. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing, too. I've seen you on multiple news networks now, basically on the front lines of making sure that people are doing their part during this crisis. And it's a very hard time for a lot of people. And I thank you for speaking about those hardships, too, because a lot of people aren't seeing it face to face. And I think it's very important to humanize this issue compared to just looking at it as a statistic. But, Jean, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming on tonight.